Glorifying God. We talk about what it is that God purposes for us, and we find that it's about praising God, it's about glorifying God. One of the important things for us to remember is the teaching of Matthew chapter 5 and verses 14 through 16, a teaching that is familiar to us, but it reminds us that as followers of God, that we are to be the light of the world. I read that text for us again in Matthew chapter 5, and I want us to read here in verses 14 through 16. It says, "You are the light of the world, a city that is set on a hill that cannot be hid." When we think about glorifying God, and we think about what we have been made for, we find that, of course, the answer is there as we had started. It's about glorifying God, it's about praising Him. So when I think about, or you think about what it is that we are to be doing within His life, it's not about things that we want to do in a sense of bringing pleasure just to ourselves, but it's about being able to understand that we're living a life for God. When we think about that life that we're living for Him, there's this way of life that He expects from us. You think about what is brought out in Matthew chapter 5 and verses 14 and 16. It tells us there of that which I believe many people to already know, and that is that we are to be a light unto the world. But I read here in Matthew in chapter 5, and starting here within verse 14, it says that you are a light of the world, a city that is set on a hill that cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle, nor put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. And then verse 16 says, "Let your light so shine before men, that you may see, that they may see your good works, and glorify your Father which is in heaven." We can't miss what's being said there. We need to understand that as we go about our lives, hey, living for God, that we work through a world that has a lot of sin within it. So we have this great practice that has to be among us, that we avoid sin within the world today. Great. I mean, we need to do that, no doubt. But it's more than just avoiding the bad. We also have to do the good. We have to be the light. And when we do that, just as the text tells us here, this is when we glorify God. So, how do we do that? Well, we go about living a life for God. We go about sacrificing ourselves in the sense of not doing the things that might be to our pleasure, that we don't try to find happiness within the ways of the world, as we mentioned Solomon already in the past studies, that we understand that we look to a future. We look to a future thinking, just as Philippians chapter 4 and verse 8 teaches us, "Finally, brethren, whatsoever things is true, whatsoever is honorable, whatsoever is just, whatsoever is pure, whatsoever is lovely, whatsoever is commendable, if there are excellence in these things," the reality, if there's any praise at all within these things, that verse is telling us, think on these things. Let that be our mindset. Let it be our mindset to do that which is good, to live for that which is good, so that we can bring glory to God. I hope that you have a blessed day. And if we can ever help you from the Antioch Church of Christ in finding a way of life that you can be pleasing to God the Father, please contact us.